In this video, we are talking about the overloaded constructor for the quadrilateral class. Now, what does overloaded constructor look like? So for the quadrilateral class, when I go over my overloaded constructor, I have again, I have public quadrilateral, This takes a string argument, which indicates a type, so string str. So we'll set type to that. So type is equal to str. Now, based upon this type, this will generate a different quadrilateral. So let's say if my str dot equals we'll use equals ignore case for this purpose. Equals ignore case rectangle, one more bracket there, so equals ignore case rectangle. We will call init rectangle. Else if str dot equals, so based upon whatever my parameter is, we will call that particular method to initialize that shape. So this will continue in here. So we have a string, we'll set the type, and we'll call the corresponding method to generate that specific type of quadrilateral based upon the parameters. So I'll let you complete this method there. What I will talk about in the rest of this video is how do you write this initialize rectangle method and what goes in this method. So we are here talking about, not there. So here we'll talk about init rectangle. So we'll continue with that. Sorry, there's some issue with the writing. Okay, so we will continue with. So that was my type there, and we will continue here with the init rectangle. Init rectangle. Now, what is included in creating a rectangle, or rather a discussion of what it takes to create a rectangle when you know 4 points, or when you have 4 random points. If I have 4 random points in terms of A, B, C, and D, do I get a rectangle all the time? And answer is no. So that means even in order to choose those 4 points, which we were choosing in default constructor, we need to put some restraints, some restrictions on that. So I'll discuss 2 ways of creating a rectangle. So what about we will create a rectangle based upon 2 points. Let's say I have my coordinate plane. Just so I choose point A randomly and point C randomly, and let's say point A has some coordinates which are x1 and y1, and point C has some coordinates x2 and y2. Based upon these coordinates, now I can choose my point B. So if I go straight from point A and go up from C, and I do the same exact thing, so here's my point B, and B will have a coordinate as x2 and y1, and my point D will have a coordinate of x1 and y2. So B and D I will initialize based upon A and C, where A and C are random. Now, only drawback of this method is that my rectangles will always look like this. I could get a rectangle looking like this. I could get a rectangle looking like this. Let's say these are horizontal rectangles. What I will not get by this method so far is a rectangle which might look like this. I will never get that. So what do I have to change in here? How should I choose those 4 points so that I get a rectangle looking like this? And let me call that an oblique triangle. Oblique triangle, oblique rectangle. So how do I get an oblique rectangle? Now, a discussion on an oblique rectangle. So let's say again I have that was my method one way of discussing a rectangle. Another one, I have, this is my coordinate plane again, my 4 points A, B, C, D. What if I choose A here randomly and point B randomly is right over there? So A is there, B is there. If I connect A, B, I get some line connecting A, B, and then I can choose a line which is perpendicular to B and going from point B. So if you know equation of lines, that should not be a difficult task to do, right? So we get that line. Now on that line, if my slope is positive, let's say that, I will choose a point C on this line AB such that C is in that third quadrant and it's between some values of X over here, right? So I have to try, let's say 9 different values of X here to find out where my C would land. And by putting some more restrictions, let's say we get a C right, we get a C right over here. Once we have C, we can find the corresponding. Now, you will have to find the equation of this line, which is perpendicular, and then choose a random point on C with certain restrictions on the y coordinate of C. So once you have that, then you can use a distance formula and some more math to find the length of CD such that CD is same length, such that CD is same length as AB and has same slope as AB. So once you have that, once you've determined your point D like that, then you have a rectangle which does not look straight. It's a oblique rectangle. There could be more ways than this to think of your rectangle, but that's a start, because your rectangle could also, which is not oblique, a rectangle which is not oblique could easily look like, hey, that's my point A and my B is below A. Now the slope is negative. Now that's my perpendicular line. So what are the restrictions to choose this point C? And then you get to your point D. Can your D be in the same kind of quadrant as A is? That could be very possible with this approach. But that is the approach which I advise you to play around with. If you can figure out designing your rectangle, if you're having lots of trouble doing this, you can go to the first way of doing that. But you know, this approach, you cannot get more than 8 out of 10 points, and here you can get your 10 out of 10 points if that's if you know what I'm talking about in here. So that's initialized rectangle. How to write the code for that, that I will leave on you to work. So just like init rectangle, you'll have to, for this part of the code, you will write your init square, init parallelogram, init trapezoid. Init kite is optional, so that's an extra credit. So if you have time, you can work on initializing kite. Otherwise, that is all you do in here. So if I go back to UML, you understand we have these points. We got the quadrilateral, we got the overloaded constructor. We have getters are good. Init methods are good. Now is kite, is parallelogram, is rectangle, is rhombus, and is square. That's another set of methods you will write in this part, right? So for these particular methods, you will decide whether a parallelogram is a kite. So you will be given a parallelogram, and I will call is parallelogram method. I'll call is rectangle method. You'll given a parallelogram or decide whether a parallelogram or whether a parallelogram or a quadrilateral is a rhombus or a square or a rectangle or a trapezoid. And you're going to do that using slope of the lines, slope and length. You can of sides and diagonals. So that's how you're going to write these methods. Additionally, you will also be writing the method to find area of a quadrilateral and area and perimeter of a quadrilateral. So that's the area method there, and there is a perimeter method right down here. So you'll do that too. You will also write the methods to find the side length and side slope. So that's the overloaded constructor and the description of other methods of the quadrilateral class.